This is Hisako, a midwife at Babu Babu Birth Center. Today, I want to take a moment to talk about the process of baby burping. Haruki-kun, who is 1 month old, will be helping us today. However, he is a bit sleepy right now, so I will be talking while trying to put him to sleep in the first half. Yes. So about baby burping, there's usually guidance at the maternity hospital to burp the baby after breastfeeding or giving milk. Babies are still learning how to drink properly, so they often swallow air along with the milk. If they don't release the swallowed air, their stomachs will feel uncomfortable. So hold them upright like this and gently pat their back to help them burp. This is something you will likely be taught at the maternity hospital. So this burping is actually known as the gastrocolic reflex. It occurs when food or drink enters the stomach. As the milk or breast milk is transported through the intestines sometimes make large vigorous movements like this. The baby's stomach works to digest and absorb the milk, gently sending it through the duodenum to the intestines. Then the colon starts moving energetically. There's a specific timing for this. It usually takes around 3 to 4 hours for the milk to be fully digested and absorbed. During those 3 to 4 hours, the gastrocolic reflex, which is when the contents of the stomach move to the colon, occurs about 3 to 4 times. So, the mechanism is that a burp occurs when this gastrocolic reflex happens. So if you prefer to hold the baby upright, it doesn't mean they won't burp if you don't pat them. Whatever they drink will still be digested and absorbed. It doesn't make sense that they won't be able to digest if you don't hold them upright and do like this. So in other words, you don't have to hold them upright and do like this to make them burp. The burp will come out naturally. Think of a burp not as something you force out, but as something that comes out naturally. Yes, after the baby drinks milk, holding them horizontally like this makes it really hard for them to move their stomach. The most effective position for digestion and absorption is to elevate the head and allow gravity to act on the lower body. So gravity acts on the colon, helping the stomach to move more easily. Well, it's said that doing this way makes it easier for your stomach to move. You know how they often talk about the back switch when you try to lay them down gently after nursing? You get scolded. No, you're not putting me down, and you pick them up again. You say if you don't hold them like this, they will get fussy. A lot of moms are going through a tough time with this. Ultimately, babies prefer the position where their head is up and their lower body is down. By doing this, they can easily digest and absorb. When moms see this, they think the baby is asleep and try to lay them down, but the baby is closing their eyes and focusing on each little movement of the stomach. They're actually working right now, so they're not actually sleeping in that state. Instead, they're working hard with their eyes closed. Unlike adults, they can't unconsciously digest and absorb easily. So when you hold them upright like this, they calm down. But when you try to lay them flat, it's like a back switch gets triggered. And then they start crying loudly. That's just what happens when you're trying to burp your baby after they've had milk or breast milk and they start making sounds like ugh, and they are uncomfortable and flailing around. They likely swallowed some air. This is true especially for breastfeeding moms who have a very strong milk flow. When the breast milk flow is too strong, the baby can't drink at their own pace. Even though they want to drink slowly, if a torrent of milk flows into their mouth, they're like, oh gosh, I have to keep drinking to keep up. They're going to be like, okay, next one. They panic and end up swallowing air along with it. And as a consequence, there is a chance they might end up throwing up later. Some women have great breast types that produce the right amount of breast milk at the baby's pace. In that case, the baby will swallow less air than bottle feeding. You know, with baby bottles, air just inevitably gets in. Unlike a mother's nipple, it doesn't get flattened. Because it's made of rubber or silicone, there tend to be gaps around the mouth. So this can cause air to enter through the gaps, making it easier for the baby to swallow air. That's why, for mothers, there's usually no need to stress about burping too much, but for babies who are formula fed, making sure they burp is often recommended. With formula, gaps can form, making it easier for air to be swallowed. In contrast, with breastfeeding, the nipple flattens and creates a vacuum in the baby's mouth, making it harder for air to be swallowed. However, when a mother's milk flow is very strong, the baby may end up drinking too quickly and gulping down air, which can cause discomfort and lead to vomiting. I do think it's a good idea to burp the baby, but just because they burp once right after drinking doesn't mean they're all set. As I mentioned earlier, the gastrocolic reflex. It happens several times within 3 to 4 hours as the digestive system works. During these moments, the intestines move, The burp happens around this time. Moms might say, I burped my baby right after feeding, but they still threw up 1 or 2 hours later. This half-digested milk, kind of like cottage cheese, came out with it. Moms often get concerned about this, but just because you burped your baby right after feeding doesn't mean everything is okay. The gastrocolic reflex occurs several times over a span of 3 to 4 hours. Even if you don't hold them upright, they will still burp. At that timing, because the shape of the stomach is still straight and not bent into an L shape like an adult's, so when the baby burps, their stomach is in a straight line, making it easier for the contents to come back up. So just because they vomit doesn't necessarily mean they're sick. And it's not always because you couldn't get them to burp properly right after they drank. Burping after feeding just occurs even if you don't put your baby in an upright position. You don't have to get worked up about it. It is true that burps are more likely to come out when the butt is lower than the head, as gravity puts pressure on the butt. I mean, even just holding the baby upright a little can help them burp. Honestly, this rubbing is meaningless. Burps don't come out from rubbing. However, when you're holding the baby upright, rubbing their back is probably just something you end up doing with your free hand. You don't need to do anything special. Just hold the baby upright with their head up. It's perfectly fine to just hold them in this position, keeping them like this for about 30 seconds to a minute. If the burp doesn't come out, just say, it's just not the right time for a burp, and continue as usual. But sometimes a burp just sneaks out at the most unexpected times. After feeding, you might say, my baby doesn't burp, and rub their back for over 10 minutes. This is unnecessary. If the baby seems relaxed and content, it means they aren't feeling uncomfortable. You don't need to try so hard. If the burp doesn't come out after about 30 seconds to 1 minute, that's okay. So, if they throw up afterward, you can just say, oh, it happened now. All right, and then just wipe it up. This position works well too. It's common to hold the baby upright on your shoulder like this, but this really puts a lot of strain on the bodies of mothers who've just given birth. Holding the baby with tense shoulders and arms like this is really exhausting. Yes, I don't particularly think you need to do this. I will breastfeed. Yes, I will breastfeed. Once you're done, open your hand into an L shape like this and gently place it under the baby's armpit. So you take this arm and place it under the forearm like this. Then let the baby rest on this forearm. Move your hand like this, just like this. There you go, see? It's easy, right? Form an L shape. Place it and let the baby rest on your forearm. You can pat them gently if you like, but it's not necessary. Then form an L shape again and support them. Bring it back, let go. This approach is fine. Alternatively, after breastfeeding, you can hold the baby's head upright. Holding them in a position where gravity supports their bottom is also acceptable. This burping thing, it's not like once the baby burps right after drinking, that's the end of it. Well, whether it happens or not, it doesn't really matter either way. If they appear to be in discomfort, it's helpful to assist them. However, if they don't, there's no need to persistently keep trying until it happens. Over the course of 3 to 4 hours until the next feeding, they burp multiple times, which helps with digestion and absorption. Yes, that's a good way to think about it. Well, I believe the easiest way is to hold them upright like this. All right, let's try it again. Just like this and like this. Now, make sure your other arm is positioned like this on top as well. Otherwise, it might feel uncomfortable. Please make sure to guide the hand through properly. Here's what it looks like. Now let's talk about breastfeeding for babies. When it comes to drinking from the breast, formula from a bottle just comes out more smoothly. They might finish drinking everything within 5 minutes, or at most within 10 minutes. When drinking quickly, it's easy to swallow air. Milk starts to flow only after the baby has been sucking for a bit. When the letdown reflex kicks in, the milk flows out quickly, but once it subsides, there's a period where not much milk comes out. But as the baby keeps sucking every now and then, and the milk starts flowing again. Unlike formula-fed babies who receive milk at a constant pace, breastfed babies experience a more variable flow, which is why breastfeeding tends to take a bit more time. So even if this gastrocolic reflex happens while they are drinking, they are latched on, creating a vacuum. This is because they have the nipple securely in their mouth. This way, only the air escapes quickly, preventing any vomiting. While drinking breast milk, they might pause for a moment like this. At that moment, the gastrocolic reflex is occurring. Actually, they are skillfully managing to inhale and release just the air through the gaps. Since they are latched on and there is a vacuum, they don't vomit or burp. However, they do pause for a moment. When it comes to breastfeeding, babies are quite skilled at doing things like releasing air while they drink. They don't gulp it down all at once like they would with a bottle. In that sense, for babies who are breastfed, you don't really need to stress over how many times they burp. So, did you get how to burp a baby? There's no need to stress yourself out like this. You might say it's not coming out, but really, it's not about your skill as a mother. It's about how the baby's digestive system. It's really not the mom's responsibility at all. If they don't seem uncomfortable, just let them do their own thing. All right. Pregnant with my 12th child, this is Midwife Hisako's Parenting School. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.